So, welcome to the Center for Sacred Sciences. You've all been here before. You know, as Rick said, that we're not associated with any particular tradition. We draw on the teachings of the mystics of all the great traditions. And the mystics' teachings reflect two fundamental principles, or really instructions. Mystical teachings are really more of instructions than anything else. They're instructions to practice so that you can realize for yourself the truth of what they're talking about. So the first of these principles is to seek truth. And the second principle is to cultivate love and compassion. Excuse me. In August, we celebrate the first of these principles on our summer holiday, Light of Truth Day. And today we celebrate the second one on our winter holiday, Light of Love Day. So this morning I thought I'd talk about how these principles apply to an unprecedented situation we are all facing. And that is the global environmental crisis. What, if anything, do mystics have to say about solving this? And first of all, actually, not much directly. Most of them lived before this crisis became apparent. But I still think we can extrapolate from their teachings an answer. So what would that be? Well, first of all, the physical cause of our environmental crisis is primarily climate change brought about by burning fossil fuels. We're also poisoning our rivers with pesticides and pumping toxins into the air and choking the oceans with plastic and so forth. But all these have physical causes, and we could do something about them physically if we could summon the will to do it. But I think mystics would say there's actually a deeper spiritual cause. And that is a deluded experience of ourselves and the world. And why is it deluded? In what way? Well, mystics claim to have a realization, an enlightenment, a gnosis of a formless ultimate reality that underlies all forms of experience. And different traditions call it by different names: spirit, God, Brahman, Buddha nature, the Tao, primordial awareness. We like pure consciousness, it's more generic. And they insist, whatever by name it's called, that this underlying reality is the true nature of everything, and especially ourselves. So, for example, the great teaching, a core teaching of the Hindu mystics is that thou art. That being Brahman, Brahman's their name for the ultimate reality. Thou is Atman, your true self. So there's this equation between your true self and the ultimate reality. Hui Ning, a 7th century Buddhist master, says, "Our very self-nature is the Buddha, and apart from this nature, there is no other Buddha." So it's the same equation. Your self-nature is the Buddha is your self-nature. In case you think this is some sort of exclusively Eastern teaching, here's the 14th century Christian mystic, Meister Eckhart. And he says, "Some simple people think that they will see God as if he were standing there and they hear. It is not so. God and I, we are one." So same, that thou art, same teaching. And the Sufis, who are the mystics of Islam, are fond of quoting Muhammad, the prophet, saying, "Know thyself, whosoever knoweth himself knoweth his Lord." Whosoever knoweth himself knoweth his Lord. It's the same thing. If you want to know God, go find out your true nature. So this is a universal core teaching of mystics of all the traditions. Now, one analogy that's used, cross traditions, is that of waves and the ocean. The relationship between the ultimate reality and ourselves is like waves in the ocean. We inform our waves and in essence are the ocean of consciousness, of the ultimate reality. But, and here's the big but, most of us do not experience ourselves that way. We're ignorant of this ultimate reality. We falsely identify ourselves with some little subject inhabiting this body-mind, separated and cut off from a world of other body-minds and objects and things. And this sense of separation, of being cut off from everything, generates a kind of existential loneliness, right in the core of our being, a kind of hole that we feel that there's something missing, some kind of happiness, some kind of love, bliss even, that we don't just naturally have, that we have to find it. And so we set about trying to do this by trying to acquire those things that the body-mind likes and avoid those things it doesn't like. And this becomes our whole approach to life at every level, physical, emotional, everything. We're just constantly out there consuming, trying to fill this hole. And in our modern consumer culture, this has been augmented by science and technology. We can now manipulate the environment. We can keep creating new things to consume, and we keep doing it. It's voracious. And I think that the mystics would say that's really the spiritual cause of our environmental crisis. It's this hunger born of a delusion. And the sad part of it is it can't work. Because everything that we want to acquire and consume and so forth is impermanent. In fact, even the pleasures we get from acquiring and consuming are impermanent. So we just keep doing it. We don't really know how else to live. We're really like drug addicts when you think about it. Our whole economy is based on this. And, it's pumped up by advertising, and you're not happy with last year's car, you got to get a new car. You're not happy with last year's clothes, you got to get new clothes. It's just endless. So, is there any other way we can live? And the mystics, of course, would say yes. And here's Ananda Moyama. She was a great mystic of the 20th century, a Hindu mystic. And I think she sums up our predicament and points to a solution quite succinctly when she says, everything in this world is transitory, so also worldly happiness. It comes, and the next moment it is gone. If permanent abiding happiness is to be found, that which is eternal will have to be realized. So, that which is eternal, that's in the Hindu terms, that would be Brahman or Atman. And why to be realized? Well, ultimately, you cannot communicate the truth of these teachings through words or thoughts or ideas. You have to realize them for yourself. So, how do you go about realizing it? Well, before you go discuss that, how is it that then this spiritual cause of our environmental crisis, the problem is we don't realize that the love and the happiness and the bliss that we are seeking is already present within us. It's the part of the nature of our true nature. So we're always out there trying to get what's already here. Not only that, according to the mystics, this whole world of form, their environment, is itself an expression of this inherent love, bliss, and happiness. So, for instance, here's the ancient Hindu Upanishads. Brahman is bliss. From bliss are beings born. It is by bliss that they live, and it is to bliss that they return. Brahman is often described as Sat Chit Ananda in Sanskrit. Sat is being, Chit is consciousness, and Ananda is bliss. So inherent in Brahman is this bliss. The Kabbalists are the mystics of Judaism, one brand of mysticism, one branch of mysticism in Judaism. And their view of the cosmos, the creation, is that it is born out of a mystical nothingness through a single point, Bina. And here's what the Kabbalist scholar Gershom Scholem says about this. This is the mystical Eden. Eden meaning literally bliss or joy. And from here, the stream of divine life takes its course and flows through all hidden reality until at last it falls into the great sea of Shekinah, which is the world of form, in which God unfolds his totality. So all this, we are sitting here from a Kabbalist point of view, literally in God's unfolding totality being displayed for us, including us. This is a divine environment. This isn't just some dead, worthless, useless thing. Here's the Sufi sage, 13th century Sufi sage, Ibn Arabi. The movement that is the coming into existence of the cosmos is a movement of love. This is shown by the apostle of God in the saying, I was an unknown treasure and longed to be known, so that but for this love and longing, the cosmos would not have become manifest. This saying of the prophet he's talking about is a story about Muhammad. And when Muhammad approached God, he said, what should I tell the people when they ask me, why did you create all this? And Muhammad answered, tell them, I was an unknown treasure that longed to be known. So here we are, again, seeing, experiencing this treasure that's being manifest for us so we can know it. It's like God's an artist to mystics. Have ever you created any work of art? A painting, a poem, a song? And then you know this feeling of bursting with this happiness, this bliss, this kind of ecstasy, and you have to get this out. This unknown treasure. You don't know what it is going to be until you create it. There's a song in you. You don't know it until it comes out, and then you know the song. There it is, manifest in form. It's exactly from the point of view of the mystics about what this creation is doing. Here's how the 19th century Hindu mystic Swami Vivekananda explains it. It is impossible for him, that's the Atman, true nature, it is impossible for him to see himself or know himself except through reflection. You cannot see your own face except in a mirror. And so the Atman, that's the true self, cannot see its own nature until it is reflected. And this whole universe, therefore, is the true self trying to realize itself. Trying to realize itself. On the one hand, it's the creator. On the other hand, it's you, the audience. And they're the same thing underneath. You are absolutely necessary to the cosmos, just as a viewer is necessary to a painting, or a listener is necessary to a poem or a song. That's how it gets known, the treasure. Here's Meister Eckhart. All created things are God's speech. The being of a stone speaks and manifests the same as my mouth about God. I just happen to have a stone here. You know, when I read things like this, you should drop everything and go find a stone. No, this stone is speaking about God. Right here. I mean, you want to know God. People read this, in the book. Oh, they keep going on. No, drop the book. Go find a stone. Listen to the stone. It's not speaking about God. It's like there's some other extra thing that's necessary to understand this language. Quite the contrary. This stone, according to Meister Eckhart, is the Word of God. That's it. Itself is the Word. Just as surely as my word is a word, God. There. Our problem isn't that we're missing something. Our problem is that we're overlaying on this all sorts of ideas about it, and we can't experience it directly, unmediated by language, by thought. But it's all around us. You know, I always say God's very patient. Oh, you didn't get that? Okay, well, here's another form of God. Oh, you didn't get that one? Oh, there's another form of God. It's on and on and on. Here's the 14th century Tibetan master, Longchenpa. He's speaking from his point of view as his true nature. I, the creativity of the universe, arise as the teacher in 5 forms of pure and total presence. That's earth, water, wind, fire, and space, the 5 elements that in these ancient cosmologies are thought to be basic. Their dimension is the full richness of my being. Their message is conveyed through their form. The 5 forms of the state of pure and total presence show everything to be the truth itself. Wherever you look, earth, sky, wind, air, go home and light your fireplace and look in the fire. Everything is showing the creativity of the universe. The world is your true nature showing you what your true nature is, trying to wake you up from this delusion that you're some sort of separate, limited little being. It's phenomenal if you think about it. And that's our problem. We don't usually think about it. It's not even so much we don't even think about it, we don't see it. We don't experience it. We're not aware of it. Occasionally, you go walking around in the redwood forest or something, and you start to get a sense of that beauty that shines through. Or you walk by the ocean, and the vastness of the ocean reflects some of that. Or maybe it's just some little miraculous insect or something that catches your attention, and you see a spider weaving its web. How miraculous. But normally we're so busy trying to acquire things, we don't notice any of that. It's really a shame, actually. It's sad. Anyway, the conclusion is that our true nature is trying to wake us up. So how should we respond to this? Well, the first thing we can do is seek the truth. Seek the truth for ourselves. And the first thing we can do along those lines is to simplify our life. Stop consuming all this stuff thinking it's going to make us happy. It's not. If we just started there, we'd go a long way to starting to solve our environmental crisis. Just stop. And then redirect that search for happiness, it's always out there, inward, to try to find your true nature. Here's how the 13th century Sufi poet Rumi puts it. Would that you could know yourself for a time. Would that you saw a sign of your own beautiful face. Then you would not sleep in water and clay like an animal. You would go to the house of joy of all lovely spirits. You would travel to your every far corner to make yourself manifest, for a hidden treasure has remained concealed within you. Back to that image of the treasure. So how do we make this journey to every far corner? Well, to engage in spiritual practices, meditation, inquiry, morality, devotion, all those things. And then, if we start to glimpse our own true nature, then we can turn back to the world of forms, and we can start to see that true nature in them. Here's how Lali Shori, a 14th century devotee of Shiva, puts it. And she's talking about a mantra, one of Shiva's mantras. She says, "O Lali, with right knowledge, open your ears and hear how the trees sway to Om Namah Shivaya, how the wind says Om Nivah Shivaya as it blows, how the water flows with the sound Om Nivah Shivaya. The entire universe is singing the name of Shiva. Oh, Lali, pay a little attention. Pay attention." And then the second thing is to cultivate love and compassion, not just for other beings, but for the environment as a whole. And Lao Tzu, the founder of Taoism, writes about the relationship between the Tao, the ultimate reality, and the myriad creatures, all the phenomena in the universe. And here's what he says. "The myriad creatures rise from it, yet it claims no authority. It gives them life, yet claims no possessions. It benefits them, yet exacts no gratitude. It accomplishes its tasks, yet lays claim to no merit." So the Tao's activity is selfless. It's just the activity of a selfless giving. And it's true, isn't it? You know, the sun's shining, it doesn't ask for anything back. You know, as the Bible says, it shines on the just and the unjust and rains on the just and the unjust and all that. Now, sometimes if we're struck by how wonderful and beautiful all is, we might feel gratitude, we might give thanks, we might worship and all that, but it doesn't demand that. It's going to rain whether you worship or not. It's just all a free gift. Your heartbeat is a free gift right now. You're not doing anything to deserve it, earn it. It's just all around us. It's amazing. So that's the way reality is. Reality is selfless in its activity. So if we want to live in harmony with reality, well, we have to live selflessly ourselves. Make everything we do a gift. That's why Lao Tzu goes on to say, "Therefore, the sage benefits them, yet exacts no gratitude, accomplishes his tasks, yet lays claim to no merit." And you'll find the same teaching in other traditions. All but one of the verses of the Quran begins with "in the name of God, the compassionate and the merciful." So here's the 13th century Sufi Ibn Ata'Allah, and he writes, "Encompass with your mercy and compassion all animals and creatures. Do not say, 'This is inanimate and has no awareness.' Indeed, it does. It is you yourself who have no awareness. So let existence be as it is, and be merciful towards it with the mercifulness of the Creator in the midst of his creation." So this extends not just to sentient beings, all beings. Listen to 13th century Zen master Dogen. "Foolish people think that if they help others first, their own benefit will be lost. But this is not so. Beneficial action is an act of oneness, benefiting self and others together. If you have this mind, even beneficial action for the sake of grasses, trees, wind, and water is spontaneous and unremitting. This being so, make a wholehearted effort to help the ignorant." So I think we'd say that the mystics would say the spiritual solution to our environmental crisis is to cultivate love and compassion for the environment, because the environment is an expression of our own true nature. We're just loving and being compassionate to ourselves, ultimately. There's only one here. Now, we live in unprecedented times, and I think there's one other thing to say. Most of the teachings of the mystics are aimed at individuals who are ready to hear them, those who have ears to hear, as Jesus put it, and not really to the masses. But they weren't aware of the extent to which our greed and delusion could affect and destroy this creation, at least this local part of the creation, which our own body minds depend on. So I think that we have to kind of accelerate the program a little bit, and we have to join with other people of good faith in trying to create a spiritual culture to replace this consumer culture. And if we don't do that, I think we're going to be in trouble. And this is interesting. This is a warning that was given by the 13th century Christian mystic, Saint Bonaventure. And here's what he says. Whoever is not enlightened by such splendor of created things is blind. Whoever is not awakened by such outcries is deaf. Whoever does not praise God because of all these effects is dumb. Whoever does not discover the first principles from such clear signs is a fool. Therefore, open your eyes, alert the ears of your spirit, open your lips and apply your heart, so that in all creatures you may see, hear, praise, love, and worship, glorify and honor your God, lest the whole world rise against you. Ooh. That's kind of coming to pass, isn't it? So anyway, this is a good time to make an announcement that the center at our last board meetings decided to form a committee for the promotion of our fourth precept, which is not to waste the resources upon which other beings depend. And let's see, Fred's here and Morwood is not here. Fred, are you here? Oh, Mo, you are here. Oh, great. There's Fred. Okay. Do you either want to say anything about it now? These are our co-chair of the committee or something like that? Fred will. Okay. Fred will take responsibility. Oh, let me just say one thing. I have a sign-up sheet on this side table with describing what the committee is, and then if you're interested, so after Fred's talk there, after we depart, you can sign up if you're interested. Fred.
Yeah, I don't know. I guess I don't have, I'm not sure what to say. Let's see. Yeah, it does seem to be a call to kind of try to wake up to the reality that's going on. I've been involved in the there's a lot of grief, I guess. It's a deep dive into grief for me. And I think it's for anybody who really looks deeply at what's going on. And so that's really a call to look into the grief of our situation right now. And nobody has any answers. And, people have ideas, but all these organizations I've been part of, sometimes they think they know what's going on, but nobody really knows how to solve this problem. And so it's kind of you need to embrace the unknown also is another aspect of it. So what this committee, what we do and how we do it. I may have a couple of nascent ideas, I guess, but I guess we will go along and see what happens. I guess that's about it.
Well, one thing you can do is to educate us for what you do know. Jennifer and I always talk about this, like, well, should we get used cloth napkins rather than paper napkins? Well, it seems obvious, but wait a minute. The cloth napkins, then you have to wash them, use detergent, use hot water. How much trade-off is there? There are a lot of little things around the house where it seems like this is a good idea. Oh, she's using filters now. That was it, for coffee. So you can get cloth filters, but then you have to wash them out with hot water and whatnot, or you can get the I assume they're biodegradable paper filters. Which one is more environmentally friendly? It's just all these questions keep coming up. So that's one thing that you could try to help us sort out at that level. And then larger things. Are there rallies? Are there petitions? Are there whatever?
Yeah, and really looking at the, educate yourself. Maybe not everybody in here really thinks it's a unprecedented emergency. I certainly think so. But really take a look at, do some reading about what's going on. And then act out of love and compassion. Now, how, if you believe that there is an emergency, how would you respond? What would be your call to service? It can take many forms. So it's everybody has their own skills and talents they can bring to the issue. But somebody's talked about how it's like mobilization for World War II. How the whole country, felt threatened, and so everybody, well, virtually everyone, mobilized in some form or another to take part in that. To use war as an example is maybe not the best example, also, but it will. We're threatened now, at least in my opinion, we're threatened now the similar way the world was threatened then, and so we're called to take action in some way. And that's the other thing that comes to mind is that, it's like Eddie Hillesum. We talked about Eddie Hillesum was a young Jewish woman in World War II. And she was, she was faced with the Nazi occupation in her country in Holland, I believe. And so that became her practice became, just facing that. And it was a kind of a rapid path to kind of her own realization, because she's faced constantly with this fear and sadness of her own death, the death of her spiritual community, and so it's just to deal with it on that level. It enriches your spiritual practice, whatever you're doing. And so you really need to, it's not easy work. It's kind of a hard path, but it seems like our only choice at this point, in my opinion.
Well, we're on it whether we like it or not, but yes, any questions?
So it does seem like a war to me. It seems like a war on apathy. As I've been listening to because I'm very connected to the coast and particularly Walport, and I've been listening to all the tsunami talk, and the biggest problem they have about getting people to respond to the danger coming up is the apathy, because everybody wants to just stay in their routine and they don't want to step out of their comfort zone. It's not very comfortable, but they don't want to step out of it. And I feel that also. The big one for me is the plastic bags. And I reuse the plastic bags. And in Springfield, I'm always relieved, kind of, because I can get a plastic bag. And I have all of the other kinds of bags. I have so many of them, and I use them for so many different things, and I always would forget to take them into the store. And so this is a big thing for me because of what's happening to the animals in the ocean and the animals everywhere because of the plastic. The plastic is just, and the plastic, if I remember right, I've thought this all my life. I was born in 41, and most of my life I've thought, and I haven't looked this up, that it was invented in the year I was born. And I think about this, and I think about it's what I've known all my life. I've had a war with plastic almost all my life, and now it's getting rid of it rather than using. I refused to use it for so long, most of my life, and when I could. And now, not using, having those recycled plastic bags, I'm really working on getting over that and getting used to that. And so I really think it's about apathy.
Anybody else?
Barbara.
Let me just say one thing about the microphones, real quick. We're going to use these from now on. Anytime there's questions and answers, as everybody's getting a little harder of hearing. Plus, it'll show up better on the recording. So before you ask your question, just wait. I'll bring a microphone to you, and then we can continue. Yeah. Okay. And these microphones, you don't have to, as somebody said, eat it. You just have to be kind of close like this, and it won't do static or popping as long as you don't set it on something. So just hold it, and then when you're done, just raise it up. I'll come get it.
Thank you, Maya.
I would like, if you would talk more about apathy. For example, in Olive Plaza, we are 150 people, and we are concerned about what happens if there is an emergency, physical or whatever. The other day we had an active shooter a couple of doors away, firing to the west, and everything was in order. The police were superb. It was handled well. However, some months ago we went to the city government to find out what the plan was if there was some type of physical storm or catastrophe. What happens to our building and all the people in wheelchairs, et cetera, et cetera? How do we get out? And they didn't have a plan that they could give us. That was, I don't know if you hear the pause in my voice, but that is extraordinary. And so we can't assume, that other people are thinking as strongly about it, even though they say they are. Apathy keeps coming up, but I don't know if apathy is the right word. I mean, I've seen apathy in other kinds of situations, like the student housing that went up near where we live, and all of the protesting that we did, and the ignorance about it, and it's proving itself true. It's still pretty messy, and it isn't something we want in the city or in our neighborhood. So I guess I'd like to ask more about the word apathy.
Well, first of all, that's something you start at home. Examine your own life and how much apathy you have, because you really can't do anything about other people's apathy except engage with them, talk to them, and so forth, but you can't change other people's hearts. So we have to change our own hearts. And then perhaps by example, through engagement, through education and so forth, perhaps we will change other people's hearts. There's no guarantee. And one of the great teachings of the Bhagavad Gita particularly, but you find this in all mystical teachings, is one form or another, that you have the right, the obligation, the duty to act, but not to the fruit. So as long as we are taking whatever action we can and not being apathetic, and then you talked about grief. Yes, there's grief, but if there's a difference between grief and guilt. If you've done all you can, no blame, as the I Ching would say. It's not up to you. If nobody wants to, get to work solving this environmental crisis, and the planet starts burning as it is in Australia right now, okay, that's what's going to happen. And I mean, in the bigger picture, people are worried about the planet. Really, the planet's gone through lots of big extinctions. Dinosaurs came and went and all that. I think the planet in the long run is going to be just fine. It'll be a shame these little limited body minds, they're kind of interesting. It's a neat little experiment here. That may not last. But it doesn't, that part doesn't matter in terms of what we do. If we act out of love and compassion for the planet, for the environment, and try to get other people persuading, that's all we can do. And that's enough. That's it. But make sure we do that. And not be cynical and just throw up our hands and say, well, it's not going to work anyway, so who cares?
Well, the government did respond. I mean, the local government has tried to respond. So I don't want to leave what I say alone. I must say that. But it's patience, I guess. Patience on the part of all of us in some way. I don't know.
I mean, just one comment about apathy. It's I mean, it's kind of rampant. I know, especially dealing with politicians, trying to get politicians to take some direct action, you know, whether they're Democrat, Republican, or whatever it is. It's, you know, I've to me, it's, after being in the movement for a few years, it seems like nonviolent direct action is kind of what I'm drawn to. I mean, you know, a month ago I was sitting in Governor Kate Brown's office, occupying her office with about 100 other people, trying to get her to take a stand against the Jordan Cove frack gas pipeline and terminal in Coos Bay, which she refused to do, and then, you know, 21 people were arrested. You know, I mean, there's no guarantee that that's even successful, but you know, it's whatever your heart calls you to do, whether it's some action like that or just. I was talking to Melissa Casper. She was with the impeachment. She was calling all the Republican senators and urging them, you know, giving her opinion about what they should do. I know Maura Scanlon is involved with the Red Rebel Brigade.
Red Rebel Brigade, wow. Sounds like my youth.
So, I mean, there's other people that are involved with things. Neerajan Mary Song has been out on the streets. Sharon Wesley doing the community rights of Lane County and other people. So, I mean, there's people in our community that are doing things also that you can talk to and get some ideas from. Man.
I don't think I need the microphone. Well, take it. Will be better. Sure. This subject comes up with clients a lot, and I just wanted to say a couple things that would help me. So I think one other aspect of apathy, or sometimes apathy is a manifestation of despair. And on the spiritual path, despair is an aspect of kenosis. It can be an aspect of kenosis. It can be an aspect of that exhaustion of our sense of personal will that is just shy of realization. And the most difficult, most painful experiences that we have are often the most transformative. So with those two ideas in mind, I always think that this moment in human history has great potential, and that the challenges that we're facing as a species, not just our species, but as a global community, are going to produce novel and radical transformation in the same way that spiritual realization does. And it has something to do with that process of going into the unknown that we don't understand. It's new, it's novel. So I think if you can remember that in your own experience, the most difficult, painful experiences you have often borne the greatest fruit, that might help you to face that despair and kind of get up off the couch and follow your heart, whatever it is. It doesn't have to be directly environmental, but service, love, just sharing the light that's in your heart. That's what we need to do, however that is for you. That's my opinion on it.
Thank you, Matt. That went right home.
Good.
Wow, thank you so much. Appreciate it.
Yep.
Hello? There's a lovely book by an old friend of mine, theologian James Douglas, and I don't know if it's in the library. I might have donated it. The book I'm referring to is called Lightning East to West. He's a Christian theologian, but also a Gandhian in practice in his life. And for me, one of the best parts of this book is the introduction, which was written by his wife, Shelley Douglas. And she makes the point, a very important point about urgency. And we've touched on this, the reference to the Karma Yoga out of the Bhagavad Gita. And the idea that when we go to take action, and it can be anything from the daily practice aspect to the high-level risk type of thing, nonviolent civil disobedience. But she makes the point that it has to do with time. She says, we know around these parts that there's no time like the present. But she says there's a sort of a mystery. This couple, they're also into Einstein and shamanism and all kinds of stuff, and they weave it all together. And she makes the point that when we acknowledge urgency about a particular situation, that's super important. That drives us to action. But the key is to not act out of that place of urgency. And if we can manage to approach everything with love and patience in our hearts, it actually winds up creating time, creating more time and more space. And we all know this from our practices and our retreats, that what's one of the big byproducts? It's the creation of a sense of spaciousness. There's more room to move in. And that includes time. So if we're concerned that we're running out of time, which we appear to be, paradoxically, the key to addressing that is to act without urgency to address the urgency. And a little flip of Dallas flip of the whole thing. I just wanted to share that because I've always found it to be super important when I go out to try and do something that may want to be confrontational. If I'm driven by urgency, I'm going to lose my center, and the results probably aren't going to be the best. If I can just stay in that center with what do I want to see, a loving and kind and patient. So I need to be that as I take my action.
Thank you, Deb, that's great. One other thing I thought of is there's a book in the library, Braiding Sweetgrass by...
What is it? This is the most amazing book you'll ever read.
Braiding Sweetgrass by Robin Wall Kimmerer. She's an indigenous woman. And it's all these little stories she wrote. She's just a wonderful writer. But one of the chapters in there was, she was talking about her daughter was in grade school and she had to do the Pledge of Allegiance to the flag every morning, and her daughter started to not stand up and do the pledge with everybody else. And so they informed the mother, just thought she might like to know, even though the daughter was not being disruptive. But anyway, the gist of the story was that she started talking about the pledge of gratitude that the Onondaga Nation does. And saying how wonderful it would be if everybody did that instead of the Pledge of Allegiance. And just, I mean, they go on for like 20 or 30 minutes of being grateful for everything in the environment. All the creatures, all the air, all the 5 elements, just on, and inviting them to participate in the ritual, the gratitude. So that's a really important thing also, the being grateful for everything. Good place to start.
She was here.
This is just really short. I just got an email last night from a guy who was promoting or advocating for an environmental group called World War Zero. So if you want to check out something interesting, well, I can't bet it because I haven't fully, I just looked through it a bit last night and I'm like, this looks good. But World War Zero is like we're looking for 0 carbon emissions by a certain time, and they're really about the urgency of it. So it's worth a look.
When I was thinking about getting more involved in the environmental work, I knew that I didn't want to do it if it was just going to be coming from an angry place. And you spoke well to that bit. And I knew that I would have to have a place to have my sorrow too. But I found that when you take a step, you find the next step. For instance, it took me a while, but I found a grief ritual. And it took me a while to feel safe enough to dance, because wasn't it Emma Goldman that said she's not going to go to a revolution if there's no dancing? That's how I feel. And so we have to say with what we do love about the planet, instead of everything that's dying, but loving it while it's here, and that being grateful is such a good way. But you also find out things by meeting people that have experience. And I think it's so good that we're going to do this committee, because I would found people who already had a resiliency group going with some counselors that would help people deal with the feelings that come up and remind them of their connection to something bigger. And it just seemed like every time I needed something else, I would find it. And just yesterday I talked to Keith, who I know from the 350 group, and he's part of a interfaith Earth Keepers, and it's all different spiritual communities and how they're bringing it up in their communities and things that they've done. So it's not like we have to start from ground zero with this committee. We can talk to some other people about what's worked for them so far. So I'm excited about the committee.
Cool, you're going to sign up for it, right?
I'll be on the top of it. I get there first.
Is there nobody else? All right. Oh, yes, go ahead. Yeah.
Oh, thank you. I just wanted to say a couple words about waking up out of apathy, that it can be a very adventurous and exciting thing to try. And I credit Ruth Dennison, for my Dharma teacher, for waking me up out of my apathy in terms of the environment. And this often happened on her Vipassana retreats in the desert near Joshua Tree, where all the water was trucked in. And so water was very precious. And one thing she had was a shower stall that when you went to take your shower, the water would be collected in a bucket. And at the end of your shower, you were to take the bucket. And the water heavy, how much did you use, right? And carry that then into the desert and water a creosote bush, which would later flower. So everything that we use and we thought about using and so on came into that practice. I did find it very exciting because I'm with the desert. I'm with these plants that grow here and these rabbits that are running through and so on. But sometimes, yes, I would say, I don't need a shower today. I don't want to pick up that bucket or whatever. I get by without. But also, just brushing the teeth. I do this at home too. It's like, do I let that water run while I'm brushing, or do I stop it? So those simple actions, everyday actions, can come into play for waking us up out of apathy and just being truly with where we are, with what we are doing, with love and compassion. So it's fun, it's exciting. Wake up out of apathy. Thank you.
Thank you.
I just want to add that, like Matt, I see many people very aware and very terrified and depressed and in grief about our climate. And I guess it's important to know that out of grief comes great joy. And as we grieve what we see dying and what we're losing, we can see the joy too of what we have not seen, and reconnect with what we have quickly walked past and not noticed. And right now, connections are everything. Connections with people, connections with animals, nature, with each little particle of air we can breathe still. Henry and future generations, Matt and Hiromi's kids, all our kids who are getting older, these connections will bring us back to where we need to be to do what we need to do.
Okay, well, let's bring the formal part of the morning to a close. I see people have brought some goodies. You're welcome to hang out and chat some more and come up with ideas. Don't forget the sign-up sheet, and please don't forget the donations box, which is always open. All right, till we see you again, peace to you all.